All right, hey, this is a recording, obviously, of Borderlands 3, but it's modded. I believe starting out, it was just a third-person mod and balance, but I believe I changed some things up midway through, and it doesn't really correlate correctly after I changed them because I'm not on my client. I'm not hosting the server. One of my friends is hosting the server, and I'm just playing with them, helping them finish some stuff up in game. Supposedly, I should be finishing, you know, multiple parts of this game as well as like a few of the other Borderlands, not just with those same friends, but with other people as well. And I was streaming this at was it twitch.tv/ blame paradise or blame underscore paradise. So if you ever just want to watch me there, you can catch me there. I'm not putting my link in the description. You'll just have to find me. But we're not here to necessarily talk about the game overall. Though I'm sure I will have like several different videos, you know, of just different gameplay of Borderlands 1 through 3, most likely just 2 and 3 whenever like X amount of people actually do decide to play. If you want to like join in, you can just I guess put like your Steam referral code in the comment section or put down like your gear shift login and whatnot and we can talk, I'll add you for run games. Usually I play modded. If you don't play modded, but you want something that comes from playing modded, I could probably help you out. If not that, then to just have somebody to play with, I mean, I can understand that as well. So, yeah, let me know. But this overall video isn't supposed to be about Borderlands. This is, just me ranting as usual, but I just wanted to like get that up and out the air now. So hopefully you enjoyed some of the gameplay or just listening to me. I don't know. I don't care. So yeah, let's get into it. So I'm working on how I'm gonna like start presenting like my videos and laying stuff out to be a little more just understanding. I guess I used to have this like completely different way of how I record things and render things and process things and now I'm thinking about just changing it all and really having like a different take on like what I want to say, what I want to do and how I'm going to do it all and I'm sure like the more I do it over time, the different it's going to be. So this isn't necessarily content made to entertain. It's just more so another journal entry. So I should most likely, you know, label it out as such, just so that if anybody does come around looking for whatever video for whatever reason, they'll know, hey, this is just a journal entry. This isn't one of those videos that like I'm recording with friends, goofing off and talking or making jokes or whatever the case may be. Um, so in one of my last journal entries, if not the last, I had spoke about like dealing with like my mom getting cancer and changes to everything that's just been going on in life and naturally I just wanted to keep like elaborating on everything, not necessarily I guess speaking too much so on to everything and just droning on and on about things that I guess could be a little too personal. But at the same time, this is one of those things where I kind of feel like I'm not really going to have a bunch of people just like chiming in and listening to what I say, right? This is kind of just me getting like my voice out and kind of just, I guess, ultimately journaling almost as if it were a diary, and just um, speaking, getting stuff off of my chest, right? So, yeah, this isn't going so well. But tied into like my mom getting like cancer and whatnot. So apparently she had it for 2 years, which is a crazy long time to have been dealing with X amount of pain and whatnot. And I like she ignored it. A lot of us didn't really like realize it or notice it because we weren't paying like crazy attention. It started like getting really bad a few months ago, And when she went to go get it checked out, that's when she eventually found out that it actually was cancer. And obviously, she had gotten it checked out. Well, not specifically it, but she's been checked up a bunch of times by a bunch of different doctors for a bunch of different reasons, and nobody ever really found that it was like cancer growing, which I think is crazy. But I've heard it happening to a lot of people. Like even before I found out about my mom, I heard it happening to a lot of people, and it's just it goes over a lot of like doctors' heads. And I guess if you're not specifically looking for something, then they're not gonna find it. And I mean that's not every doctor. I know there are some who actually do come in clutch and will tell you, oh hey, you got this or you got that, or have you been keeping up with this? Have you been keeping up with that? So I just think that that's you know uh, something that was a little crazy when you like to stop and think about it over time. It kind of just opens up your eyes, like, hey, I should start, like whenever I go to the doctors, whenever I go to get checked up, I should start getting checked up for this, or I should start getting checked up for that. I shouldn't just go for like this little like physical or whatever. I should see if they can help me better understand this or help me better understand that, right? And I bring that up because like I myself just randomly one year started having these weird like I want to call them sensations, but maybe the better word would be like pains, where like I could see the color red, and whenever I started seeing it, and I know that kind of sounds goofy, like, oh, you can see the color red. Who can't see the color red? But I mean, like, in situations where like you wouldn't see it, right? One of the ones I used to have a lot is when I was driving, usually to like a certain place or during a certain time that I like. I don't go there anymore, but when I would drive like from there to there, I'd have like these weird like tinglings in my hands, kind of like pins and needles, except they stung a lot more than pins and needles did, and my hands weren't going to sleep at the time. And whenever it happened, it gave me like this feeling of like fear, and I could see red, and I that's probably the best that I can explain it. Um, it was just like this weird feeling of like fear, which naturally would give me like a feeling of panic, and I would see red, like the color red, even when like nothing red was like exposed on my skin at the time. And all while it was going on, it was also kind of like a doubling like feeling of pins and needles, which is a pretty crazy experience, like looking back on it now. But I don't know why it was like that. Chances are it was a health problem. I couldn't tell you. I don't know what was going on. I haven't felt it for some time, and I only really like started feeling it when I was hanging out with like a certain set of people. Right before them, I had never really felt it. After they like left my life, I never really felt it. But while like hanging out with them, spending time with them, like just being around them, I was feeling it. I don't know what it is. I want to say I looked it up at one point, couldn't really find an answer. This was around like when COVID was kind of like jumping. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was just like some side effect to some medicine I was taking at the time, or if it was a side effect to something that like had hit my body due to COVID. There's no telling. Because like when I got COVID, I got pneumonia, and I've never had pneumonia before in my life. But that, let me tell you, is that's a different experience. That's something that like I wouldn't like wish on my worst enemy, because it was just pain. All right. And it was more panic than pain. It had me like questioning everything. Like, yo, what's going on with me? What's happening? Why do I feel like this? Why does this hurt? So on and so forth. And I believe it almost killed me. I obviously could be exaggerating, but I was like in the like I don't want to call it an operating room. So I was just in one of the like rooms for patients when they were doing like tests for this wasn't the COVID vaccine, but this was like a something they put in your bloodstream to help fight COVID, I guess to kind of like make our kids immune to it or whatever. And they paid you if you did it. Some people they paid, some people they didn't. It depends on what doctor you went to. But the doctor I went to at the time paid if you did it. And when they gave it to me, it's like a treatment you have to do over a set amount of time. So, this wasn't like a one and done. You had to like come back like once every week or so. But when I did it, there was a point where like I was on like the little table, whatever that they have you like sit on when they check your chest and whatnot. And I remembered, and apparently I scared everybody in the room, but I remembered feeling like I was gonna black out and feeling like I couldn't breathe. It felt like my chest was closing up, and I had like slight chills, and my back was getting tight, right? And I just couldn't move, and all I did was like struggle for air, and that's my biggest thing that I remember was like struggling for air. I just kept gasping and gasping, trying to breathe, and I felt like this crazy wave of panic just wash over me because it felt like I wasn't gonna be able to breathe. It felt like I was like just slowly losing oxygen. Like if my lungs collapsed, I feel like that's how it would feel to have my lungs collapse. Right. So it was a pretty insane feeling, and it was terrifying because I remember sitting like, well, I say sitting. I was laying basically on what could have been my deathbed, thinking, okay, well, goodbye. Like I'm looking at my mom. I'm like looking at one of the nurses, and I'm sitting there like this is it. Like this is how it's gonna end. And as I was like feeling like my chest closing in and getting tighter and tighter, uh, it stopped, and I was able to take like a deep like inhale. Like I was able to just get as much oxygen in as possible, and it was almost as if it had never happened. I was like, I'm good, I'm good, and they're like just looking at me terrified, like, are you sure you're good? Like, what was that? What's going on? Are you okay? How are you feeling? And they're like, we were gonna walk out and like just leave you in here for when a doctor comes, but now like we're not gonna do that. It's clear, something else is going on. And obviously it was, tied into the pneumonia, so I had to get hooked up on an IV and have all this extra stuff happen. But yeah, I mean, I turned out good. Like I'm fine now, right? So I don't know if I ever really talked about that, but that was like one of my COVID experiences. I think it was my second COVID experience. No, yeah, I think that was my second time getting COVID, if not my third, which I know just sounds insane, right? But believe it or not, I think if I did get COVID, like for me personally getting it, I got it once. But the other two times that I got it was basically from family, right? They were exposed to a whole bunch of like people, usually people in their school or in their class or their friends, and their friends didn't tell them that they had it and didn't know they had it, or some knew they had it and still like exposed themselves to other people anyway. I mean, mind you, they were like minors at the time, so I mean, what can you expect from kids? But yeah, I think that was during one of the times when they gave it to me and not like when I personally myself had it. But I will admit that like the time I had it after them, I remembered feeling, you know, the same kind of like PTSD feelings that like my body had after dealing with pneumonia, which was an experience. Like I said, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But yeah, that's my little like side story with what I was going at, with the whole mom thing and like my own like personal health. I mean, obviously, I've been way better since then. I haven't really like experienced too many like crazy other COVID related whatevers. Sometimes I'll have like spiked symptoms come back. I think like it'll be harder to breathe sometimes in times where like it really shouldn't be. One of my friends had mentioned the other day that like sometimes their like taste, like their sense of taste and their sense of smell will change. just out of the blue, kind of as if like it's gone temporarily. And I feel like that's kind of just like PTSD, our bodies dealing with like post COVID nonsense. So yeah, that was just something else to add. I feel like there's probably going to be a time where I end up dying or getting hospitalized or whatever, and it might not be because of COVID, but assuming that one day my channel, my videos or whatever finds people, they could be like, I'll have like X amount of people who could or maybe could not relate. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's the little health part. Now I'll get into well, I can always share like other things in other videos because I do have like X amount of things that I want to like update you all on because I've just been living life, right? One of the bigger things that I wanted to add, because I usually, talk about like relationships and whatnot throughout like my channel, is I actually ended up breaking up with one of my exes, and I mean, I know it's a lot. Um, it felt like a lot, especially around the time when my mom was diagnosed with cancer, but a lot was going on in my life. But yeah, around this time, I ended up just breaking up with her, and I guess it was more so of like a mutual thing. At the end of the day, like you make time for the people that you want to make time for, but she just didn't want to make time for me, and that's completely fine. We all have our own like things that we have to deal with in life, and we just have to face like whatever we're like dealt to face with. And I just thought it'd be more reasonable to like split each other up because I mean, if you can't make time for me, then why are we together? And not only that, but times are changing. I'm gonna have to start, like helping out with more business stuff as far as my family goes, as well as just going to school again and like taking on a whole bunch of classes that I haven't even started yet. Basically, internships at like companies and all this extra stuff on top of already working at like a job that I'm working at now. So you know, it's even if we did like still try to keep something going, it would have went from like her not having enough time for me to like me not having enough time for her, or like both of us just struggling with time because that's a lot on my plate, and I know that she's gonna be moving on to like bigger things as well. So we're all kind of just having a bunch in the air that like we really just got to focus on and buckle down with. And it's not just her and I. It's also like a handful of my friends who are talking about it as well. Like everybody's lives are changing, and I think that that's actually really fun, really cool because we're all getting exposed to like new experiences, and we're getting to change as people, and we're being faced with all of these new things to come. But at the same time, it's kind of like I can't believe we're here. I can't believe like we're seeing all this change. We're like things are becoming the way that they are, right? Because if you would have asked me, and I feel like that's something that's been happening a lot with me lately. If you tell me like a year ago, look at me running a trainer now. Like I'm not usually a trainer person, but there I am, running a trainer. I barely remember that, but that's not usually the mods that I use. Obviously, as you can see, third person isn't trainer based, but yeah, that's something that I tend to like realize that I do at least once a year is if you tell me, like if you would have told me earlier this year or that year, excuse me, that like I'd be doing this or I'd be doing that or this would have happened or that would have happened, I wouldn't have believed you, you know? And now that like the year is coming to a close, coming to an end, here I am doing it. And maybe that's a good thing, to have something that I wouldn't have believed or wouldn't have like expected to happen, but maybe not always a good thing. You know what I mean? Like, I would have expected to be in like a stable enough relationship to where like I'm with like the person that I plan to be with for the rest of my life. Like I'm with them throughout the entirety of like from the day I met them to like the day I die, right? But that's not the case. I wasn't expecting to have changed majors, but I did. I wasn't expecting to have been faced with like one of my parents having something as serious as cancer, but life catches you by surprise when expecting to like start working towards a family business, but life catches you by surprise when expecting to get X amount of things paid off on and all this stuff, but life catches you by surprise. And as of late, my brother's been having me like watch One Piece, and I was never gonna give One Piece a shot, but now I'm watching it. Life catches you by surprise, and I never really thought I'd get the opportunity to like stream and make videos the way that like I've been wanting to. And this isn't necessarily like how I've been planning to do it exactly, but this is definitely a start from originally what I was doing because back then I was on like a PC setup where things were a little more harder to run, heavier to run, um, uh, just just a mess, right? But now things are fairly smooth and getting a little easier, and I believe I can have like heaps of content streaming and like recording wise now because I actually have the possibility, like the power, the tools to do so, and I am grateful for that because I'm definitely gonna need it for the major that I'm in, which is a lot of like this. Well, not this specifically, but overall, like in this element of like news reporting and video editing and rendering and all of this extra stuff, right? So it's nice to be able to like finally come back and start putting stuff like this together to kind of give me a refresher on certain programs and how things should be, right? And yeah, I feel like that might be it, but I'm not sure. There is a side little note, I guess, as far as like relationships go. One of my exes has been it's been a minute since she's like reached back out, but she was like reaching out to me a lot, like a lot, and I thought that she just wanted to talk, get to see how we'd been as time had passed, but I think she wanted a little more than that because at the time she was staying on dorms and was asking me to like come to her dorm because it was only her in her room. And I wouldn't have minded doing it. It's been a super long time. I haven't seen her in like a year or more, like physically, right? But um, nope, that did not work out the way that it could have, and it's mainly just because I had a lot going on at the time and couldn't find the time to do it. And when I finally did find some time to do it, she couldn't. So, life works its way out in different ways, but you get exposed to, all kinds of things when you're starting out and learning. So, yeah. Oh, another thing. I wasn't like super deep into the story, so I plan on playing through it a few times, but right here, right, Tyrene catches Lilith, right? And she's like crazy when it comes to like sucking, right? So she sucks Lilith. All right. Well, now we've got like Tannis, right? We got the girl, right? And we got Maya. Why doesn't she suck all three of them at point blank range, right? She is within like reason to. She definitely can. But instead, she's just like, I got another mission. And even though y'all could definitely be like a hindrance, I'm not going to do anything about it. And she just leaves. And it's like, why? It's like the equivalent of like watching one of those movies where like the sniper takes out the person that the main character is interrogating, but the sniper could have taken out the main character too because they clearly had an open shot and just decided not to. And it's like, okay, but why let the main character live? You know, eventually they're gonna come back around. They're gonna kill you. Find out what you were trying to keep, like the person that you killed from knowing. So, like, what was the point? You know, it's just goofy. But I'm not gonna like spoil the ending of how this goes. I mean, if you played it, you already know how it ends. I do plan on playing more of it and playing through the DLC, not just for this, but for Borderlands 2 as well. So hopefully that does plan out. I have a handful of other games I also plan on playing too. Oh, my throat. So yeah, catch you around. Peace.